Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Let the noise of the modern world fade away. There are no notifications here. No emails pinging, no traffic outside your window. There is only the sound of wind whistling through the cracks of a wooden wall and the heavy, rhythmic breathing of an ox sleeping just a few feet away from your head. Welcome to Dreamless Timelines. Tonight, we are going to drift back, way back. We are leaving the comfort of the 21st century and stepping into the mud, the mist, and the quiet resilience of the Middle Ages. We're going to walk in the shoes of a medieval peasant. We're going to feel the cold morning air, smell the wood smoke, and understand the sheer, impossible grit it took to survive plagues, famine, and the original bad bosses, the lords. So, settle in, get comfortable, and let's unravel history, one slow heartbeat at a time. Imagine it. It's the year 1348, or maybe 1290. The specific year doesn't matter as much as the feeling. You wake up not to an alarm clock, but to the cold. It's a bone-deep chill that settles into your joints. It is pitch black. The sun hasn't even thought about rising yet. In the modern USA, we talk about the grind, about hustle culture, waking up at 5 a.m. to hit the gym before the corporate Zoom calls. But here, in your wattle and daub hut, in a forgotten village in England or France, the grind isn't the choice. It's survival. It is the original gig economy, except the gig is staying alive and the economy is literally dirt. You roll off your mattress. Well, let's be real. Calling it a mattress is a stretch. It's a sack stuffed with straw, prickly and smelling of old dust. You aren't alone in the room. Your whole family is here, huddled together for warmth. And it's not just humans. Over in the corner, separated by a thin wooden barrier, is the family cow. Maybe a couple of pigs. In 2024, living with farm animals inside your studio apartment would be a health code violation or a very weird TikTok trend. Here, it's central heating. That cow is a 1,000-pound radiator. You can hear her chewing cud in the dark, a slow, rhythmic grinding sound that is strangely comforting. You stand up on the dirt floor. It's packed hard, almost like concrete, but colder. You fumble for your clothes. Fashion isn't exactly a priority. You're putting on a tunic made of rough wool. It's itchy, it's heavy, it smells like wet dog and lanolin. Underwear? Let's just say linen braids are the medieval version of boxers, but way less comfortable and usually tied with a drawstring that never quite stays tight. You pull on your hose, which are basically leggings but for tough guys, and step into your leather boots. These boots are your most prized possession. In the medieval world, good shoes are the difference between a good day and losing a toe to frostbite. You step outside. The air hits you like a slap in the face. It's crisp, smelling of damp earth, manure, and the faint, sweet scent of wood smoke from the neighbor's fire. The village is waking up. You can see the silhouette of the thatched roofs against the graying sky. This is your world. It's small. Most people you know will never travel more than 10 miles from this spot. It's a claustrophobic thought for us, used to jumping on planes or scrolling through Instagram to see Bali. But for you, there is a strange peace in it. You know every tree, every pothole in the muddy road, every face. Speaking of faces, as you walk toward the communal well to splash freezing water on your face, you see your neighbors. There's John, There's Agnes. You give a nod. No one talks much this early. Everyone is saving their energy. You know, this tight-knit community is key. If you get sick, if your crop fails, these are the only people who have your back. It's a lot like the community we are building right here on Dreamless Timelines. We are gathering together, quiet souls looking for a break from the chaos. If you are enjoying this journey into the past, and you want to support our little digital village, go ahead and gently tap that subscribe button. It's free, it helps us keep the fires burning, and it ensures you never miss a trip back in time. And hey, drop a like if you're glad you don't have to sleep next to a cow tonight. Now, back to the morning. Breakfast. You don't have a fridge to raid. You have the kettle. Hanging over the fire in the center of your hut is a black iron pot. Inside is pottage. This is the fuel of the peasant. It's basically a thick, gray porridge made of oats, barley, peas, and whatever vegetables you had lying around. Maybe a bit of onion if you were feeling fancy. You eat it with a wooden spoon from a wooden bowl. It's warm. It sticks to your ribs. And honestly, it's bland. No hot sauce, no sugar, just survival mush. But when you are about to work for 12 hours in a field, that bland mush tastes like a 5-star meal. After scraping the bowl clean, it's time to head to the fields. This is where the reality of your life really sets in. You see, you're not free, not really. You are likely a serf or a villain. In modern American terms, you are technically an essential worker, but with zero benefits and you can't quit. You belong to the land, and the land belongs to the Lord. Let's talk about the Lord for a second. The big boss, the man. Up on the hill, overlooking your muddy village, is the manor house. It might be stone, it might be timber, but it's huge compared to your hut. The Lord owns everything. The fields you plow, His. The mill where you grind your grain, His. The oven where you bake your bread, also His. And He charges you for all of it. Imagine if your boss charged you rent for your office chair, a fee to use the coffee machine, and then took 30% of your paycheck just because he felt like it. That was the feudal system. It was a pyramid scheme, and you were at the bottom. You walk to the strip of land assigned to you. The sun is peeking over the horizon now, painting the sky in pale pinks and oranges. It's beautiful, but you don't have time to compose poetry about it. You have to plow. If you're lucky, you have an ox team. If you're not, you and your family are pulling the plow. The mud sucks at your boots. Squelch, squelch, squelch. That sound is the soundtrack of your life. The soil is heavy, wet clay. You have to turn it over, row by row, hour by hour.
Your muscles burn. Your back aches. But there's a rhythm to it. Step, push, turn. Step, push, turn. It's hypnotic. It's a flow state. You aren't thinking about the future. You aren't worrying about your retirement fund or the stock market crashing. You are entirely focused on the earth. There's a simplicity here that we have lost. In our world, we're constantly multitasking, watching TV while scrolling phones while eating dinner. Here, you just plow. You are one with the task. But while you work, you keep an eye on the manor. The Lord's steward, basically the middle manager who loves power a little too much, is riding around on a horse, making sure everyone is working. He's the guy who would definitely circle back to you in an email. He's checking to make sure you aren't slacking, and more importantly, he's making sure you aren't hiding any produce, because taxes are due. And in the Middle Ages, you didn't pay taxes with a check. You paid with your sweat and your harvest. You see, the deal was supposed to be simple. The Lord provides protection, and you provide labor and food. Protection meant that if Vikings or a rival lord attacked, you could run inside the castle walls. In exchange, you gave him a huge chunk of your crops. It sounds like a mafia protection racket, and honestly, it kinda was. Nice farm you got there, peasant. Be a shame if something happened to it. But even in this rigged system, you found ways to hustle. Peasants were incredibly street smart. You had your main gig, farming for the Lord, but you also had your side hustles. Maybe your wife brewed ale. In medieval England, ale making was huge. The water was often sketchy, full of bacteria, so everyone drank weak ale, even kids. It was liquid bread. If your wife made a good batch, she could put a branch above the door, the medieval equivalent of a neon open sign, and sell it to the neighbors. That was cash in hand, or maybe a trade for some eggs or new shoelaces. It was the underground economy keeping the village running, while the Lord sat up in his high tower, counting his coins. As the sun climbs higher, the temperature rises. You peel off that heavy wool tunic, sweating in the cool air. You pause for a second, leaning on your hoe, wiping your brow with a dirty hand. You look around at your fellow villagers. Everyone is working. There's a sense of shared struggle. You aren't competing with them for a promotion. You're all in the same boat. If the harvest fails, you all starve. If the harvest is good, you all feast. This shared destiny created a bond that is hard for us to understand today. We live in our separate boxes, isolated. You lived in a web of connection. You knew who was fighting with their spouse, whose cow was sick, who told the best jokes at the tavern. Suddenly, a bell rings from the church tower, the Angelus. Everyone stops, heads bow. In a world without watches or smartphones, the church bell was the timekeeper. It told you when to wake, when to pray, when to eat, and when to quit. It was the heartbeat of the village. Religion wasn't just a Sunday thing. It was the atmosphere you breathed. Heaven and hell weren't abstract concepts. They were real places, just as real as the next town over. You survived the mud and the hunger because you believed deeply that this life was just a testing ground, a very long, very uncomfortable waiting room for something better. Lunchtime, or dinner as they called it, the main meal of the day. You sit on the edge of the field. You pull out a chunk of bread. Let's talk about this bread. It's not the fluffy, white sliced stuff you buy at the grocery store that stays soft for 3 weeks. This is maslin bread. It's a mix of rye and wheat. It's dark, dense, and has a crust so hard you could probably use it to hammer a nail. But it's full of energy. You cut a piece of cheese, hard, salty cheese, and maybe wash it down with a swig of ale from a leather flask. As you chew, you watch the clouds drifting by. This is the moment of peace, the calm in the chaos. The wind rustles the wheat, a shh sound that quiets your mind. You aren't thinking about the Black Death yet. You aren't thinking about the famine that happened 3 years ago. You are just here, eating bread, feeling the sun on your face, surviving. It's strange, isn't it? We look back at this life and see only misery. But if you look closer, you see resilience. You see people who could find joy in a break from work, in a piece of cheese, in the warmth of the sun. They were tough, way tougher than us. They didn't have therapy or self-help books. They had the field, the seasons, and each other. But the break is over. The steward is looking your way. Time to get back to the grind. The afternoon is long and there are rumors swirling in the village. Travelers from the east have been whispering about a sickness, a great pestilence. They say it starts with a headache, then a fever, and then, well, they say entire cities are going quiet. But that's a worry for another day. Right now, you just have to finish this row. As you lift the plow again, feeling the weight of the wood, you wonder, how much can one person endure? The answer, as history shows us, is a lot more than you think. And as we drift deeper into this story, we're going to see just how close to the edge you lived. and the incredible, almost miraculous ways you manage to keep from falling off.
The sun has finally dipped below the horizon. The field is behind you now. Your back is screaming, your hands are raw, but the day is done. You trudge back to your hut, the mud sucking at your boots with every step. The village is quieting down. There are no streetlights here, no ambient glow from a nearby city. When night falls in the Middle Ages, it falls hard. It is a heavy, velvet darkness that swallows everything. The only light comes from the flickering hearths inside the cottages, glowing like little orange eyes in the blackness. You step inside your home. It's smoky. Chimneys haven't really been invented for regular folks yet, so the smoke from the central fire just drifts up and hangs in the rafters, curing the meat and your lungs. But it's warm. And right now, warmth is the only luxury you can afford. You sit by the fire, watching the flames dance. This is your television. This is your Netflix. You and your family stare into the embers, too tired to talk, just processing the day. But let's fast forward a bit. Let's move the timeline forward, past the routine days, into the years where the routine broke. Because surviving the grind is one thing. Surviving when the world turns against you is another. It starts with the rain. Imagine it's the year 1315. Spring arrives, but the sun doesn't. The sky turns a bruised purple and opens up. It rains for weeks, then months. The fields, your precious fields that you spent all spring plowing, turn into swamps. The wheat rots in the ground. The oats turn to mush. You stand in the doorway of your hut watching the water pour down, and you feel a pit opening in your stomach. You know what this means. The harvest fails. In the modern world, if the grocery store runs out of bread, we get annoyed. We tweet about supply chain issues. We go to a different store. In the Middle Ages, if the harvest fails, the store is closed until next year. There is no backup plan. There is no FEMA truck coming with supplies. There is just you, your empty barn, and a very long winter. This was the Great Famine. It wasn't just being hungry. It was a slow-motion apocalypse. The price of grain skyrockets. The Lord up in the manor house, he's stressed, but he has reserves. He has a stone barn filled with last year's grain. You have a sack of beans and panic. You start to get creative. And by creative, I mean desperate. You stop making bread with just wheat. You start cutting it with things that definitely shouldn't be in food. You grind up dried peas, beans, even acorns. As winter sets in and the snow buries the village, things get darker. You strip the bark off trees to grind into flour. It tastes like wood and bitterness, but it fills the belly. You boil old leather scraps just to chew on something. The village goes quiet. People stop moving around to save calories. You look at your neighbors, Agnes and John, and they look like ghosts. Hollow eyes, sharp cheekbones. The vibe in the village shifts from community to survival mode. You lock your door at night, not because of monsters, but because hunger makes people do crazy things. But here is the miracle. You survive. You are the descendant of the people who didn't give up. Your body enters a kind of hibernation state. You move slower. You sleep more. You share the tiny scraps of food you have with your kids, skipping meals yourself for days at a time. It is a level of endurance that modern athletes can't even comprehend. You are running a marathon with no finish line, on 0 calories. And eventually, the sun comes back. The rain stops. The next harvest comes in. You made it. You survived the hunger. You think, okay, that was the worst of it. We made it through hell. It's smooth sailing from here. But history has a twisted sense of humor. Because just a few decades later, something else arrives. Something that makes the famine look like a mild inconvenience. It starts with a rumor. You're at the local market, maybe trading some wool. A merchant from the coast is there. He looks spooked. He's talking about a ship that docked in Italy, coming from the Crimea. He says the sailors on board were sick. Not just sick, cursed. He says they had black swellings the size of apples in their armpits and groins. He says they were coughing up blood, and he says that everyone who touched them died. You shrug it off. Sailors always tell tall tales. It's fake news, medieval style. You go back to your village. You go back to your plow.
The rumors get louder. They get closer. First, it's a town 50 miles away, then 10. Then one morning, you don't see John at the well. You knock on his door, no answer. You hear a low moaning from inside. The Black Death has arrived. It is 1348. The plague, the pestilence, the great mortality. It has many names, but they all mean the same thing: the end of the world. The terrifying thing about the plague wasn't just the death, it was the mystery. You have to remember, you don't know what a germ is. You don't know what a virus is. You don't have a microscope. To you, this isn't biology, it's the wrath of God. Or maybe it's the planets aligning in a bad way. Or maybe it's miasma, bad air. You walk through the village and the smell hits you. It's a sickly, sweet, rotting smell. People are terrified of the air itself. They start carrying around posies, bunches of flowers and herbs, holding them to their noses to block out the bad air. You see people walking around with masks that look like bird beaks stuffed with spices. It looks like a horror movie. But for you, it's Tuesday. Now, before we go deeper into the darkness, let's take a breath. It's a lot to handle, right? The resilience of these people, of your ancestors, is mind-blowing. If you're finding this story fascinating, if you're amazed by what humanity can endure, do me a solid and check if you're subscribed to Dreamless Timelines. We are building a sanctuary here, a place to process history's craziest moments while we relax. If you're already part of the crew, leave a comment down below telling me what's the one modern luxury you would miss most in 1348. For me, it's definitely antibiotics. Or maybe pizza. Probably pizza. Okay, back to the village. The plague is tearing through. It's brutal. The mortality rate is 50%. Flip a coin. Heads, you live. Tails, you die. Families are torn apart. Sometimes parents abandon their children because they are too afraid to catch the sickness. Priests refuse to give last rites because they don't want to enter the infected houses. The social contract, the rules that hold society together, starts to dissolve. It's anarchy, but a quiet, sorrowful anarchy. So how do you survive? How do you beat the coin toss? Ironically, the people who survived were often the antisocial ones, the introverts. If you were the guy who didn't like going to the tavern, who preferred to stay in your hut and whittle wood, you had a better chance. Social distancing wasn't a policy, it was a survival trait. You also survived by sheer luck. Maybe you had a genetic mutation. Scientists today think some Europeans had a mutation that made them immune to the plague, the same mutation that protects some people from HIV today. Maybe you were one of the chosen ones. Or maybe you just had better hygiene than the rest. The plague was spread by fleas on rats. If you kept your hut clean, if you swept out the straw regularly, if you didn't let food rot in the corners, you might have had fewer rats. Being a neat freak in the 14th century was a superpower. You watch the carts go by, bring out your dead. The call echoes through the misty streets. It's a heavy, rhythmic chant. You peek through the cracks in your wooden shutters. The village is emptying out. The field where you worked, it's overgrown. There's no one left to plow it. The sheep are wandering aimlessly because the shepherds are gone. It feels like the apocalypse. But here is the strange twist. The darkest moment creates the brightest future for you, the peasant. I know, that sounds crazy. How could the plague be good for you? Think about supply and demand. Before the plague, there were too many peasants and not enough land. You were cheap labor. You were easily replaced. If you complained about the Lord's taxes, he'd kick you out and hire the next guy in line. But now, half the workforce is gone. The village is empty. The Lord looks out from his castle and he sees his fields rotting because there is no one to harvest them. He panics. He needs you, desperately. Suddenly, you have leverage. You have power. You walk up to the Lord's steward, the guy who used to bully you, and you lean on your hoe. You look him in the eye. You don't bow as low as you used to. You want me to harvest that wheat? Yes, get to work, he barks. Nah, I want double wages, and I want better beer at lunch. The steward turns red. He sputters. But he looks around at the empty fields. He has no choice. Fine, he grumbles. For the first time in history, the peasant is winning. The wages skyrocket. The grip of the feudal system begins to crack. The plague, in its terrible cruelty, broke the chains that held you down. You start to eat better. You buy better clothes. You start to think, hey, maybe I'm not just a cog in the machine. Maybe I'm a person. But the lords, they aren't going to give up their power that easily. They're watching this new confidence rising in the peasantry, and they hate it. They are passing laws to freeze wages. They're trying to put the genie back in the bottle. The tension is building. The fear of death has been replaced by a burning anger. You survived the famine. You survived the plague. You walked through the valley of the shadow of death and came out the other side. You are stronger now. You are fearless. And you are about to do something that will shake the foundations of England. You are about to start a revolution. As you lay your head down on your straw pillow tonight, listening to the wind howl outside, you aren't just a survivor anymore. You are a powder keg waiting for a spark. And that spark is coming.
The year is 1381. The air in England is electric. You can feel it on the back of your neck, like the pressure before a thunderstorm. You survived the famine. You survived the Black Death. You looked death in the face and blinked. But now, you are facing something arguably more annoying than a plague. Taxes. The lords, the establishment, are panicking. They see you, the peasant, wearing better clothes. They see you eating meat. They see you demanding higher wages because, well, half the workforce is dead and you are a hot commodity. They don't like this new you. They want the old you back. The submissive, quiet, cheap labor.
So the government does what governments have done for thousands of years when they run out of money and ideas. They invent a new tax. The poll tax. It's a flat tax. It doesn't matter if you're a rich merchant or a poor plowman. Everyone pays the same. It's unfair. It's crushing. And frankly, it's the final straw. You are sitting in the village tavern, not a bar really, just a neighbor's house with a barrel of ale, and the talk isn't about the weather anymore. It's about the great society. It's about freedom. A preacher named John Ball is traveling around, and he's dropping bars that are blowing people's minds. He asks a simple question. When Adam delved and Eve span, who was then the gentleman? In modern translation, when humanity started, there were no lords, there were no kings. We were all just people. So why exactly do we have to kneel to these guys? It was a radical thought. It was the medieval version of eat the rich. And then the spark hits. A tax collector comes to a village in Essex. He's rude. He's aggressive. He starts making inappropriate checks on a young girl to see if she's adult enough to pay the tax. The villagers don't just stand there this time. They don't look at their shoes. They pick up their axes. They pick up their size. They chase him out of town. This is it. The peasants' revolt. You join the march. Imagine the scene. It's not a chaotic riot. It's an army of the working class. You are marching towards London. You, who have never left your village, are walking to the capital. The mood is high. It's terrifying, yes, but it's also exhilarating. You feel a sense of brotherhood that is deeper than anything you've ever known. You are thousands strong. You burn the tax records. You open the prisons. You are deleting the system, literally burning the paperwork that says you are a serf. You arrive in London. The city is in shock. The rich are hiding in the Tower of London, trembling. You aren't there to loot, well, mostly. You are there to talk to the king, King Richard II. He's just the boy, 14 years old. You think, he's not the problem. It's his bad advisors. If we just talk to the king, he'll fix it. You meet him at Smithfield. Your leader, Wat Tyler, rides up to the king. It's a moment that freezes time. A peasant, a former soldier, speaking man to man with the God-anointed monarch. Wat Tyler demands freedom. He demands the end of serfdom. He demands that no man should serve another unless he chooses to. It's the boldest negotiation in history. But things go south. There's a scuffle. The mayor of London, a man protecting the status quo, pulls a dagger. Wat Tyler falls. The crowd, your crowd, surges forward. Bows are drawn. This could be a massacre. But the boy king rides forward. He raises his hand. He looks at you, the angry, grieving mob, and he says, I will be your leader. I will be your captain. You shall have your freedom. You believe him. You go home, you disperse, melting back into the countryside, thinking you've won. Spoiler alert, he lied.
As soon as you left, the king sent the army. The leaders were rounded up. The promises were broken. The revolt was crushed. On paper, it looks like a total failure. It looks like the empire struck back and won. But history is subtle. You lost the battle, but you won the war. Because after 1381, the lords were scared. They realized that you, the peasantry, were a sleeping giant. They realized they couldn't push you too far. Quietly, over the next few decades, serfdom just faded away. They stopped trying to force you to work for free. They started paying you real wages. They started renting you land instead of owning you. You entered what historians call the golden age of the English peasant. Imagine your life 20 years after the revolt.
You are sitting at your table. It's a solid oak table, not a rough plank. You are wearing a tunic made of fine, dyed wool, maybe blue or green, not the rough, gray sackcloth your father wore. And look at your plate. It's not just pottage anymore. There is roast beef, there is pork, there is fresh white bread. The population is lower, so land is cheap and labor is expensive. You have disposable income. You work fewer hours. You have more holidays. In fact, medieval peasants in the 15th century had more days off than the average American worker today. Let that sink in. You have survived the worst the world could throw at you. The freezing cold, the starvation, the invisible killer plague, and the tyranny of the elite. And you didn't just survive, you adapted. You changed the world simply by refusing to die and refusing to stay silent. As you sit there in your warm cottage, wiping a bit of gravy from your lip with a smile, you look at your children. They are healthy. They are free. They will never know the collar of serfdom. And that is your legacy. It's a powerful story, isn't it? To think that your bloodline, your DNA, carries the memory of these survivors. You are here today, lying in your bed, safe and warm, because they didn't give up. This journey through the mud and the glory is coming to an end. We've traveled from the cold dawn of the 14th century to the warm sunset of the 15th century. We've seen the resilience of the human spirit. If you've enjoyed this long, strange trip through the past, and if my voice has helped you find a little bit of peace in your own chaotic timeline, please consider joining our community. Click that subscribe button on Dreamless Timelines. It's a small click for you, but it means the world to us. It helps us keep digging up these stories, polishing them off, and bringing them to your bedside. And hey, if you're feeling generous, hit the like button. It tells the algorithm that boring history is actually the best kind of history. But for now, forget the history. Forget the dates. Forget the kings and the rebels. Focus on the quiet. Imagine you are back in that cottage one last time. The fire is dying down to glowing red embers. The room is warm. The heavy wool blanket is pulled up to your chin. The only sound is the wind outside, gentle now, no longer biting. It's a lullaby.
We have walked through the fields, we have felt the hunger, we have seen the revolt. But before we go any further into the timeline, we need to stop. We need to go back to the most important place in your universe, your home. In the modern world, a house is something you buy. You sign a mortgage, you get a key, you move in. Maybe you paint a wall or assemble some flat-pack furniture from IKEA if you're feeling adventurous. But in the Middle Ages, you don't buy a home. You grow it. You build it with your own hands, using the literal earth beneath your feet. Let's take a deep dive into this process, because understanding how you built your shelter tells you everything about how you survived the cold nights. This is the ultimate DIY project, but if you mess it up, you freeze. No pressure. Imagine standing on a patch of bare earth. This is your plot. The Lord has granted it to you, for a price, of course. It's about 30 feet long and 15 feet wide. This rectangle is your entire kingdom. The first step isn't digging a foundation, it's finding the crux. You grab your axe, you head into the woods. You aren't looking for straight lumber, you're looking for a specific shape. You're looking for a massive oak tree that is naturally split into a Y shape, or a curved branch that looks like a giant wishbone. You need 2 of these pairs. These are the ribs of your house. Cutting down an oak tree with a medieval axe is not a quick job. It is a meditation in patience. Thwack,
Pause. Thwack. Pause. The sound echoes through the silent forest. You feel the vibration in your forearms. You smell the sap, sharp and green. Once the tree is down, you have to drag it back to the village. You, your family, maybe an ox if you're lucky. It's a slow, heavy drag. Once you have your timbers, you assemble the frame on the ground first. You notch the wood. You don't have nails. Nails are expensive iron. You can't waste them on a house. Instead, you use trunnels, tree nails. These are wooden pegs carved to fit perfectly into the holes you bored into the oak. When the wood dries, it shrinks and grips the peg tighter than any glue. It's engineering genius. You raise the A-frames. Now the skeleton of your house is standing against the sky. It looks like the rib cage of a whale. Now comes the walls. This is where things get messy. Literally. This is the wattle and daub method. First, the wattle. You gather hazel or willow sticks, flexible, thin branches. You weave them between the upright timber posts. It's like weaving a giant basket, under and over, under and over. The repetitive motion is soothing. Your hands learn the rhythm. Snap the twig, weave it through. Snap, weave. You do this for days until you have a woven wooden net closing in your space. But a basket won't keep out the winter wind. You need the daub. Here is the recipe for medieval daub. You might want to take notes, though I don't recommend trying this in your modern apartment. Ingredient 1, clay or mud. Heavy, wet, sticky earth. Ingredient 2, straw or hay. This acts as the binder, the rebar of the mixture, giving it tensile strength. Ingredient 3, animal dung. Cow manure is best. I know, it sounds gross, but the enzymes in the manure actually make the clay stronger and more plastic. Plus, once it dries, it doesn't smell. Trust me. Ingredient 4, water. You mix this all together in a pit. And you don't use a mixer, you use your feet. You roll up your hose, you step into the pit, and you stomp. You dance in the mud. Squish, squish, squish. It's cold, slimy, and exhausting. You stomp until everything is a uniform, sticky paste. Then, the fun part. You take handfuls of this daub and you hurl it at the wattle. You slam it into the woven sticks. You smooth it over with your hands. You are literally plastering your house with the earth itself. You cover every crack, every gap. When it dries, it turns into a hard, concrete-like shell. It is windproof, it is waterproof, it is solid. Now look up, the roof. You don't have shingles, you have thatch. You've gathered reeds from the riverbank or straw from the harvest. Thatching is an art form. You bundle the straw and layer it, starting from the bottom and working your way up. You tie it down with ropes made of twisted grass.
A good thatch roof is a masterpiece of insulation. It keeps the heat in during winter and keeps the house cool in summer. But it's also a living ecosystem. It's thick, maybe a foot deep, and it's warm. Do you know who else likes warmth? Spiders, beetles, mice, rats. There's a saying you might have heard, it's raining cats and dogs. Some historians think this comes from medieval thatched roofs. The idea was that pets would sleep up in the warm thatch, and when it rained heavily, the roof would get slippery and they'd slide off. Whether that's historically accurate or just an urban legend, the image is kind of funny. Imagine sitting at dinner and a beagle just slides past your window. But back to the inside. You step into your newly built hut. The floor is dirt, but you modify it. You mix ox blood with the earth and pack it down hard. The blood acts as a hardener. After a few days, the floor becomes polished and solid, almost like a dark marble. It's easier to sweep.
There are no windows with glass. Glass is for cathedrals and kings, not for you. Your windows are just small holes in the wall with wooden shutters. When you close them, it is pitch black. In the center of the room, on your polished dirt floor, you build the hearth, a ring of stones. This is the heart of the home. There is no chimney. The smoke rises and drifts up into the rafters. It seeps through the thatch eventually, but mostly it hangs in the room. This is why medieval peasants often had raspy voices and eye problems. You lived in a perpetual barbecue smoker. But that smoke served a purpose. It killed bugs in the roof. It smoked the sausages and bacon hanging from the beams. It preserved the timber. It was a toxic but necessary friend. Now furnish your mansion. You don't have much. A trestle table, basically a board on two stands that you can pack away when not eating. A couple of stools, a chest to keep your Sunday best clothes safe from moths, and the bed. Let's talk about medieval sleeping arrangements, since this is Dreamless Timelines and sleep is our business. You didn't have a private bedroom. The concept of privacy didn't exist. The whole family slept in one bed, and the bed wasn't a soft memory foam cloud. It was a wooden frame with ropes woven across it. On top of the ropes, you placed a mattress, a sack stuffed with straw. Have you ever heard the phrase, sleep tight? Over time, the ropes under your mattress would sag. So, before bed, you had to take a wooden key and tighten the ropes to make the bed firm again. You literally had to sleep tight, or you'd wake up in a hammock-shaped taco of back pain. And remember the phrase, "Don't let the bed bugs bite"? Yeah, that wasn't a cute rhyme. That was a legitimate survival warning. Straw mattresses were luxury hotels for fleas, lice, and bed bugs. You would scatter herbs, lavender, wormwood, mint into the straw to try and drive them away. The smell of a medieval bedroom was a mix of sweet herbs, wood smoke, and unwashed bodies. It was an earthy, heavy scent that meant safety. So the house is built, the fire is lit, the door, a heavy wooden slab on iron hinges, is barred shut. Outside, the wind is howling across the moors. The temperature is dropping below freezing. The wolves are prowling in the forest edge. But inside your fortress of mud and dung, it is toasty. You have created a microclimate. You have wrestled safety from the hands of nature. As you lie down on your straw mattress, shoulder to shoulder with your family, listening to the crackle of the fire and the rustle of the cow chewing in the next stall, you feel a sense of accomplishment that we rarely feel today. You didn't just earn the money for this shelter, you made it. Every stick, every handful of clay, every knot in the thatch has your fingerprint on it. The house breathes with you. It settles. It creaks. It is alive. And as you drift off, watching the smoke curl lazily toward the roof, you know that this mud hut is stronger than it looks. It will stand against the storm, and so will you. If you're enjoying this slow build, this detailed reconstruction of a life long gone, make sure you are subscribed to Dreamless Timelines. We are building our own structure here, one subscriber at a time. Tap the like button if you think you could survive a night in a wattle and daub hut. Or comment below. Would you rather have the smoke in your eyes or the cold in your bones? I think I'd take the smoke. Now rest your eyes. We have built the walls, but a house is not a home without food. And in the Middle Ages, food was a chemistry experiment of survival. Next, we are going to learn how to turn rotten grain into liquid gold. We are going to brew.
We have built the walls. We have thatched the roof.
We have secured our shelter against the cold wind. But a house is just a shell if there is no life inside it. And life, in the Middle Ages, runs on two things. Two very simple, very ancient things: grain and yeast. Let's step back into the rhythm of the day. It's midday. The sun is high. You've been working since dawn, and your throat is parched. The sweat is drying on your forehead. You are thirsty. Now, in the modern world, you'd walk over to a tap, turn a handle, and clear, cold water would flow out. Or maybe you'd crack open a plastic bottle. But here, in 1348, do not, I repeat, do not drink the water. The river running past the village is beautiful. It sparkles in the sun, but it is also the sewer. It's where the tannery dumps its chemicals. It's where the sheep wash. It is a biological minefield. If you drink that water, you are playing Russian roulette with your gut. Dysentery is not a fun way to spend your week. So, what do you drink? You drink the medieval energy drink, the liquid bread. You drink ale. Let's talk about ale. This isn't the IPA or the craft stout you buy at a hipster bar for $12. This is small beer. It's thick. It's cloudy. It has chunks of grain floating in it. And it has a very low alcohol content, maybe 1% or 2%. You aren't drinking to get drunk. You are drinking to get hydrated and to get calories. In a world where food is scarce, ale is a survival hack. It fills you up. The magic happens in the kitchen, or often in the brew house, which is just a shed out back. Brewing was the woman's domain. The alewife or brewster was the chemist of the village. Imagine the process. It's slow. It smells incredible. First, you take the barley, you soak it in water until it starts to sprout. This releases the sugars. Then you dry it. This is malt. You crush the malt and boil it in a giant copper cauldron over a roaring fire. The smell of boiling grain fills the air. It's sweet, earthy, warm. It smells like comfort. Then comes the mystery ingredient. You see, they didn't know what yeast was. They didn't have little foil packets of Fleischmann's yeast. They just knew that if they stirred the mixture with a special stick, a magic stick, often passed down from grandmother to granddaughter, the liquid would start to bubble. They called the foam, "God is good, God is good." They thought it was a divine blessing. In reality, the stick was covered in dormant yeast cultures from the last batch. It was microbiology disguised as a miracle. After it ferments, you have ale. It's safer than water because the boiling process killed the bacteria and the alcohol keeps it preserved. You drink it morning, noon, and night. Even the kids drink it. It's the fuel of the feudal system. If your wife makes a particularly good batch, better than she needs for the family, she engages in the ultimate medieval side hustle. She puts a long pole with a bush of leaves on the end of your front door. This is the ale stake. It's the universal sign for open for business. The neighbors come over. They sit on your benches. They pay a penny for a gallon. Your house becomes the pub. It's the social network of the 14th century. No Facebook, just face-to-face drinking cloudy grain water and complaining about the weather. But you can't live on beer alone. You need bread. Bread is everything. In the Lord's Prayer, you ask for daily bread, not daily steak. Making bread is a grind. Literally, you have harvested the wheat, you have threshed it to separate the grain from the stalks. Now you have a sack of hard golden kernels. You can't eat this. You need flour.
So you have to visit the miller. In every medieval story, the miller is the villain. He is the guy everyone hates. Why? Because the Lord owns the mill, but the miller runs it, and he takes a toll. He keeps a portion of your flour for himself, and he usually takes a little extra when you aren't looking. He's the guy thumbing the scale. The mill is a loud place. The water wheel churns, creak, splash, creak, splash. The massive millstones grind against each other, grrr, grrr. The air is thick with white dust. The miller looks like a ghost, covered in flour from head to toe. You hand over your sack, watching him like a hawk. You get back your flour. It's not bleached white flour, it's wholemeal. It's heavy. It has bits of husk in it. It's gritty. You take it home. You mix it with water and a piece of old dough from yesterday, the sourdough starter. You knead it. Kneading dough is hard work. It's an upper body workout. You push, fold, turn. Push, fold, turn. The dough is elastic and tough. You work it until your arms burn. But here's the catch. You probably don't have an oven in your house. Ovens are fire hazards. If you light a big fire inside your wooden hut with a straw roof, well, you can guess what happens. The whole village burns down. So you have to take your dough to the communal oven. It's usually owned by the Lord, surprise, surprise. And yes, you have to pay to use it. Imagine the scene. It's Sunday morning. A line of women and men standing outside a large stone building, each holding a tray of raw dough. The heat coming from the oven is intense. The smell is intoxicating. Hot yeast, browning crust, wood smoke. You slide your loaf in. You mark it with a special putt or symbol so you know which one is yours. When it comes out, it is transformed. It's a maslin loaf, dark, round, and heavy. The crust is thick, almost like armor plating. This is designed to protect the soft inside for days. You walk home, the hot bread warming your hands against the cold air. You break off a piece. This is the moment, the texture. You bite in. The crust cracks with a satisfying crunch. The inside is dense, chewy, and sour. It tastes of smoke and earth and salt. It's not delicate. It requires chewing. It fights back a little bit, but it is delicious. Often, you don't use plates. Plates are for rich people. You use trenchers. A trencher is a slab of stale bread, 4 days old, sliced flat. You use it as a plate. You put your stew or your meat on top of it. The juices soak into the stale bread, softening it. At the end of the meal, after you've eaten the stew, you eat the plate. It's the ultimate zero-waste packaging. If you're wealthy, you might give the juice-soaked trencher to the dog or to a beggar. But let's be real. You're a peasant. You're eating the plate. This cycle, brewing and baking, is the rhythm of your life. It never stops. You are constantly preparing the fuel for the next day's work. There's something hypnotic about it. The repetition, the kneading, the stirring, the waiting for the dough to rise, the waiting for the beer to ferment. It teaches you patience. You can't rush yeast. You can't rush the harvest. You live on nature's time, not clock time. If you are finding this rhythm soothing, if the smell of imaginary bread is making you feel cozy, take a second to hit that subscribe button on Dreamless Timelines.
We are serving up fresh slices of history every week. And if you're already part of the family, leave a like. It's the digital equivalent of sharing your ale with a neighbor. Now the meal is over. The sun is setting. You are full of heavy bread and warm ale. The fire is dying down, but the day isn't quite done. Because in the Middle Ages, the darkness brings its own challenges. The night is long, and it is filled with silence and stories. Next, we need to talk about what happens when the lights go out. We need to talk about the medieval night. The darkness was different back then. It was absolute. And the things people believed lived in that darkness. That's a whole other story. So wipe the crumbs from your tunic, finish your cup, and let's prepare to blow out the candle.
The candle is out. The embers in the central hearth are glowing a dull, pulsing red, like the heartbeat of a dying star. The smoke has settled into a thin layer near the roof. The door is barred. You are in the dark. And when I say dark, I don't mean the dark of a suburban bedroom where the streetlights bleed through the curtains or the standby light on your TV glows blue. I mean ancient dark. Absolute ink-black, heavy darkness. It presses against your eyes. It is total sensory deprivation. In the modern world, we have killed the night. We have banished it with LEDs and neon signs. But here, in the 14th century, the night is alive. It is a physical presence. It wraps around the house like a thick velvet blanket. You lie on your straw mattress. The ropes underneath creak softly as you shift your weight. You can hear the breathing of your family, a syncopated rhythm of exhales. You can hear the cow shifting its weight in the stall next to you. It's a cozy animal warmth. You close your eyes and you drift off. But here is the strange thing. You don't sleep for 8 hours straight. That is a modern invention. In the Middle Ages, human beings slept in 2 distinct chunks. It's called biphasic sleep. You go to bed around 8 or 9 p.m., shortly after the sun goes down. You fall into a deep, comatose state. This is the first sleep. It lasts about 4 hours. Your body repairs itself. Your muscles unknot from the day's hard labor. You are dead to the world. And then you wake up. It's midnight, or maybe 1 a.m. There is no alarm clock. Your body just knows. You open your eyes in the pitch black. You aren't groggy. You aren't annoyed. This is the watch. This is the quiet hour. For about an hour or two, the entire medieval world is awake in the dark. So what do? You don't grab a phone and start doom scrolling. You don't check emails. You just exist. Maybe you get up to stoke the fire, adding a small log to keep the chill away. The sparks fly up, illuminating the room in brief orange flashes. You check on the animals. You might whisper to your spouse. This was the time for intimacy, for quiet conversation that the kids wouldn't hear. It was the time to plan for the future. Or maybe you just lie there and think. In our world, we are terrified of silence. We plug in podcasts, we turn on music, we drown out our own thoughts. But here, in the watch, you are alone with your mind. You process the day. You pray. The church bells might ring in the distance for the midnight office, a lonely, haunting sound rolling over the hills.
You think about the world outside your door. And this is where the night gets interesting. To you, the darkness isn't empty. It is populated. You believe with 100% certainty that the woods and the fields are filled with things that are not human. You don't call them aliens. You call them the good neighbors, the fairies. Now forget the Disney version. Forget Tinker Bell. Medieval fairies were not cute. They were dangerous, unpredictable nature spirits. They were the reason the milk went sour. They were the reason your tools went missing. You didn't fear them like a monster, but you respected them. You might leave a bowl of cream out on the doorstep as a peace offering, a bribe to keep them happy. You lie in the dark and listen to the wind howling around the eaves of the house. Is that just the wind, or is it the wild hunt, the spectral riders chasing souls across the sky? It sounds scary to us, but for you, it's just part of the neighborhood. It's the vibe. It makes the inside of your hut feel even safer. The contrast between the wild, chaotic outside and the warm, protected inside makes your straw bed feel like the most comfortable place in the universe. And the stars. If you were to step outside during this midnight break to use the outhouse, you would look up and you would see something that 99% of modern Americans have never seen. You see the Milky Way, not as a faint smudge, but as a bright, roaring river of light tearing the sky in half. You see thousands, millions of stars. They are so bright, they almost cast a shadow. You know the constellations. They are your calendar. They tell you when to plant, when to harvest. You don't have a Google calendar. You have Orion's belt. You feel small beneath them, but connected. You are part of a giant, cosmic clockwork. You shiver in the cold air, run back inside, and dive under the heavy wool blanket. The heat of the family warms you up instantly. Eventually, the eyelids get heavy again. The conversation dies down. The second sleep begins. This sleep is different. It's lighter. It's filled with vivid dreams. You drift through the morning hours until the rooster crows or the first gray light touches the shutters. This rhythm, sleep, wake, sleep, is natural. It's how humans were designed to rest before electric lights messed up our circadian rhythms. It's a gentler way to live. You aren't forcing yourself to be unconscious. You are riding the wave of the night. If you are struggling to sleep right now, if you are tossing and turning, maybe you are just stuck in your own watch. Maybe your body thinks it's 13:48, and that's okay. Just lie there. Feel the imaginary wool blanket. Listen to the imaginary wind. You don't have to do anything. The second sleep will come. And speaking of doing things, if you're enjoying this deep dive into the lost rhythms of history, verify your subscription to Dreamless Timelines. It's a small gesture, like leaving a bowl of cream for the fairies, that ensures good luck and great content. And hit that like button to help guide other night owls to our fire. But the night doesn't last forever. The sun will rise, and when it does, the body reminds you that it is fragile. You have survived the cold, the hunger, and the dark. But what happens when the body breaks? What happens when you get a toothache, or a fever, or a broken leg? There are no hospitals. There is no Walgreens. There is only the village wise woman, the barber surgeon, and a jar of leeches. Next, we are going to explore the terrifying and fascinating world of medieval medicine.
We're going to find out why you might put a dead frog on your gums to cure a toothache, and why letting blood flow was considered the height of medical science. But for now, hush. The second sleep is taking over. The world is fading. The stars are watching over you. Sleep.
The sun has risen. The second sleep is over. The rooster, nature's alarm clock with no snooze button, has done its job. You stretch your limbs. You feel the stiffness in your back from the straw mattress. But this morning, there is something else. A throb, a sharp, rhythmic pulsing in your jaw, or maybe a heat radiating from your chest. You have a toothache or a fever. In 2024, you'd pop 2 Advil, drink a glass of water, and complain about your copay. In 1350, a toothache is a genuine existential crisis. It is a reminder that your body is a fragile vessel made of meat and bone, and when it breaks, fixing it is complicated. Welcome to the world of medieval medicine. It is a mix of absolute genius, trial and error, and terrifying guesswork. First, you have to understand how you think your body works. You don't know about bacteria. You don't know about viruses or infections. You believe in the humors. This is the theory that ruled the world for 1,000 years. You believe your body is filled with 4 fluids: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. To you, health isn't about killing germs. It's about balance. You are like a garden. If there is too much rain, phlegm, you get a cold. If there is too much heat, yellow bile, you get a fever. If there is too much heaviness, black bile, you get depressed. In fact, the word melancholy literally means black bile in Greek. So when you wake up in pain, your first thought is, my fluids are off. I need a tune-up. Step 1, the home remedy. You don't go to a doctor. Doctors are for rich people in cities who read Latin books. You go to the garden, or you go to the village wise woman. Let's call her Widow Edith. The church might look at her with suspicion, calling her a witch if she gets too good at her job. But the village knows the truth. She is the pharmacist. You walk to her hut. It smells amazing. A dense, heavy cloud of dried sage, rosemary, thyme, and lavender. Bunches of dried plants hang from the rafters like dusty chandeliers. She looks at your swollen jaw. She nods. She knows exactly what to do. She hands you a piece of bark. It's from a white willow tree. Chew this, she says. It tastes bitter, chalky, like eating a stick, but you chew it, and miraculously, 20 minutes later, the pain fades. Why? Because white willow bark contains salicin. It is the chemical parent of aspirin. Medieval peasants were chewing aspirin hundreds of years before Bayer bottled it. They didn't know the chemistry, but they knew the result. She might mix up a poultice for you, a sticky paste made of honey, crushed garlic, and moldy bread. It sounds disgusting. You slap this goo onto a wound or a boil. But here's the kicker. Honey is a natural antiseptic. Garlic kills bacteria. And moldy bread? That's penicillin. Centuries before Alexander Fleming discovered it in a lab. You see, you weren't stupid. You were observant. You survived because you paid attention to what the earth provided. But let's say the herbs don't work. The tooth is rotting. The fever is spiking. The balance is too far gone. Now you have to level up. You have to visit the terrified, painful world of the barber surgeon. Yes, the barber.
The guy who cuts your hair is also the guy who cuts you. You walk into town. You look for the sign. It's a pole, striped red and white. We still see this outside barbershops today. We think it looks jaunty and retro, but the history is dark. The red represented the blood. The white represented the bandages. And the pole represented the stick you gripped tightly while he worked on you. You enter the shop. It smells of stale blood, vinegar, and fear. The barber is a big guy. He has to be. He needs upper body strength because he doesn't have anesthesia. He has speed and he has force. You sit in the chair. There is no numbing shot. There is no laughing gas. Maybe, if he's nice, he gives you a cup of strong wine mixed with opium or hemlock. It makes you woozy, makes the world spin a little.
He picks up his tool. For a tooth, it's a terrifying pair of iron pliers called the Pelican. It looks like a torture device. I won't describe the sound. I won't describe the crunch. Let's just say it is over fast. The pain is blinding, white hot, and then it is a throbbing, dull ache. The bad tooth is gone. You spit blood into a bowl. You pay him a few pennies. You survived. But what if the problem isn't a tooth? What if you just feel heavy, lethargic, bad vibes? The barber says, you have too much blood. We need to let some out. This is bloodletting, phlebotomy. To us, this is insanity. Why would you drain the life force out of a sick person? But to you, it makes perfect sense. If a river is flooding, you open the dam to lower the water level. If your body is overheating, you open a vein to let the heat out. He might use a lancet, a small double-edged blade. He cuts a vein in your arm. The blood flows into a bowl. Here is the strange part. As you watch your blood flow out, you actually start to feel calm. It's a physiological reaction. Your blood pressure drops, your heart rate slows, you feel lightheaded, floaty. The anxiety disappears. You think, it's working. I'm being cured. It's the ultimate placebo. You walk out of there pale, weak, but convinced that you have balanced your humors. Or, if the barber wants to be gentle, he uses the worms, leeches. He keeps them in a jar of water. He fishes one out, a slimy black ribbon of muscle. He places it on your skin. You feel a tiny prick and then nothing. The leech has a natural anesthetic in its saliva. It also has an anticoagulant to keep the blood flowing. You sit there for an hour, chatting with the barber, while 3 or 4 leeches feast on your arm. When they are full, they drop off, round and bloated. It's gross, but it's also weirdly peaceful. It's a slow, quiet medical procedure. In fact, modern hospitals still use leeches today for reattaching fingers and toes. The medieval leech was an FDA-approved medical device before the FDA existed. But there is a third line of defense, the most powerful one. When the herbs fail and the barber fails, you turn to the sky. You turn to prayer. You go to the local shrine. Maybe the bones of a saint are kept there, a finger bone of St. Peter or a piece of the true cross. You kneel on the cold stone floor. You light a beeswax candle. The smell of incense fills the church, frankincense and myrrh. It is a holy smell. You pray for healing. You make a vow. If I get better, I will walk on a pilgrimage to Canterbury. And sometimes you do get better. Was it the prayer? Was it the placebo effect? Was it just your immune system finally kicking in? You don't know, but you believe. The mind is a powerful drug. Hope is a medicine. So you walk back home. Your jaw is sore from the extraction. Your arm is bandaged from the bloodletting. You smell like garlic and sage. You climb back into your bed. Your family asks, "How did it go?" You say, "I survived."
And you did. You are a tank. A medieval tank running on bread, ale, and sheer willpower. If you are amazed by what the human body can endure, if you are grateful for modern dentistry, seriously, be grateful. Go ahead and tap that subscribe button on Dreamless Timelines. We are dissecting history without the pain. And leave a comment. Would you rather chew willow bark or risk the barber's pliers? The body is healed. The pain is dulling. But as you recover, you realize something. To survive, you need more than just medicine. You need protection from the elements. You need a second skin. You look at your clothes. They're worn, patched, and heavy. But every thread tells a story. From the sheep in the field to the loom in the cottage. Your clothing is a masterpiece of engineering. Next, we are going to dive into the world of medieval fashion. But don't think of runways and models. Think of wool so thick it can stop an arrow. Think of underwear that, well, let's just say it was complicated. We're going to spin the yarn.
You are healed. The toothache is gone. The fever has broken. You are ready to face the world again. But you can't face it naked. In the modern world, clothes are disposable. You buy a t-shirt for $5, wear it a few times, and when it gets a hole, you toss it. It's fast fashion. You check the weather app, throw on a hoodie, and you're good. But in the Middle Ages, clothing is engineering. It is your personal life support system. Without the right layers, the damp English chill will get into your bones and never leave. You don't just get dressed, you suit up. Let's look at your wardrobe. You don't have a closet full of options. You have basically one outfit, maybe two if you're wealthy. But this outfit is a masterpiece of survival. It starts in the field. It starts with the sheep. Look at them, grazing on the hillside. They are the true heroes of the medieval economy. In England, they say, the sheep's hoof turns sand into gold. Once a year, in early summer, the shearing happens. It's a wrestling match. You grab a sheep, flip it over, and clip off the fleece with iron shears. Clip, clip, clip. The fleece comes off in one heavy, dirty sheet. It is greasy. That grease is lanolin. It's a natural oil that makes the wool waterproof. Your hands get soft handling it. It's the original moisturizer. Now, the work begins, and it is women's work. If you ever wondered why an unmarried woman is sometimes called a spinster, it's because spinning wool was the full-time job of almost every woman in Europe for 1,000 years. You take the raw wool and you card it. You use 2 wooden paddles with metal spikes to comb the wool. Scrape, scrape, scrape. You are untangling the fibers, making them run parallel. It is a repetitive, scratching sound. Then, the spinning. Listen to the sound of the spinning wheel. Whir, hum, whir, hum. It is the background noise of every cottage. The mother sits by the fire, her foot tapping the treadle, her fingers feeding the fluff into the thread. It is hypnotic. It is a trance. She is twisting chaos into order. She is turning fluff into a strong, unbreakable line. This thread is the timeline of your life. Eventually, the thread is woven on cloth on a loom. And now, you get dressed. Layer 1, the linen. You don't wear wool against your skin. It's too itchy. It would drive you insane. So your base layer is linen. This comes from the flax plant. It's light, it's breathable, and it gets softer the more you wash it. You wear a linen shirt and linen braids, those baggy boxer shorts we talked about. This layer is your hygiene layer. You wash the linen often, you boil it in water and lye soap to kill the lice. It feels cool and smooth against your skin. It's the barrier between you and the scratchy world. Layer 2, the tunic. This is the wool. You pull the heavy tunic over your head. It falls to your knees. Medieval wool isn't like the soft merino sweater you buy at the mall. It is broadcloth. It has been felted, beaten in water until the fibers lock together. It is dense. It is windproof. If it rains, the water beads up on the wool and rolls off. It keeps you warm even when it's wet. It is better than Gore-Tex. It is the armor that protects your organs from the freeze. Now, let's talk about color. If you watch movies about the Middle Ages, everyone is wearing brown, gray, and mud color. It looks depressing, but that's a lie. Medieval peasants loved color. They were desperate for color. You couldn't afford the bright purples of the king, made from crushed sea snails, hugely expensive, or the deep crimsons, but you had the hedgerow. You want blue? You use woad. It's a plant. You crush the leaves into a paste, form them into balls, and let them ferment. It smells terrible, like rotting cabbage. But when you dip the wool in and pull it out, it turns a vibrant, deep blue when the air hits it. It's magic. Almost everyone wore blue. It was the denim of the 14th century. You want yellow? You boil onion skins or weld, a weed. You want red? You use madder root. You want green? You dye it yellow first, then dip it in the blue woad. So imagine the village on a Sunday. It's not a brown sludge. It's a riot of faded blues, mustard yellows, and rust reds. It's beautiful. It's a way of saying, I am here. I am alive.
Finally, the most important piece of gear, the hood. You don't go anywhere without your hood. It's a separate piece from the tunic. It covers your head and your shoulders, a cowl. The hood is your privacy. When you pull it up, you are in your own little room. You can hide your face from the wind or from the neighbors you don't want to talk to. It's the medieval version of putting in noise-canceling headphones. It signals, do not disturb. You belt the tunic at the waist. You hang your knife, your eating knife, and your working knife from the belt. You pull on your thick woolen hose. You lace up your leather boots. You stand up. You are heavy. You are insulated. You feel swaddled. There is a comfort in this weight. You feel protected. The wind can howl all it wants. You are inside your wool fortress. If you love the idea of a cozy, oversized hoodie, you would have loved the medieval tunic. It's the original comfort wear. And if you're getting comfortable right now, wrapped in your own blankets, which I hope are softer than broadcloth, make sure you're subscribed to Dreamless Timelines. We are weaving a tapestry of stories, thread by thread. Drop a like if you think you could rock a medieval hood. So, you are dressed, you are fed, you are healthy. You step out the door. The air has changed. The sun is lower in the sky. The leaves on the oak trees are turning gold and brown. The smell of the air is crisp. Summer is over. The grind is about to shift gears. The harvest is coming. This is the Super Bowl of the medieval year. This is the moment everything has been leading up to. If you win here, you eat all winter. If you lose, you starve. The village is buzzing. The energy is high. Everyone, men, women, children, even the old folks, is heading to the fields. Next, we are going to walk into the golden ocean of wheat. We are going to feel the rhythm of the scythe. We are going to experience the most exhausting, yet the most rewarding weeks of your life, the harvest home. But before we pick up the scythe, take a moment. Feel the fabric of your own clothes against your skin. Feel the warmth. Be grateful for the layers. The field awaits.
You are standing at the edge of the field, but it doesn't look like a field anymore. It looks like a sea. a golden, dry, rustling ocean that stretches all the way to the horizon. The wheat stands tall, waist high, heavy with grain. It whispers in the breeze. It is late August, Lammas tide. The sun is hot, but it's a different kind of heat now. It's the amber light of autumn. The air smells of dust and dry straw. This is the moment. The entire year, the plowing in the mud, the freezing rain, the praying to the saints, it was all for this. If you get this crop into the barn, you live. If the rain comes before you finish, the grain rots and you starve. It is the ultimate high-stakes gamble. You hold the tool in your hands, the scythe. In modern pop culture, we associate the scythe with the grim reaper. We see it as a symbol of death. But for you, it is the tool of life. It is the most important piece of technology you own. It's a long, curved wooden handle, the snathe, with 2 grips and a massive, curved steel blade at the bottom that is razor sharp. It is heavy, but it is perfectly balanced. You line up with the other men. You don't work alone. You work in a phalanx, like soldiers. You stand in a staggered line, one man a few steps behind the other, moving diagonally across the field. You take your stance, feet wide, knees bent, core engaged, and you begin the dance. The swing. You twist your torso, sweeping the blade low and flat across the ground in a wide arc. Swoosh. The wheat falls. It doesn't crush, it just topples over gently, laying in a neat row called a rin row. You step forward, 1 step, swoosh. You step, swoosh. It is a trance. It is a pendulum. You are a human lawnmower. You can't stop. If you stop, the man behind you might accidentally clip your ankles with his blade. So the line moves as one living organism. There is no talking. You don't have the breath for it. There is only the sound of the blade slicing through the dry stalks, a rhythmic, crisp, tearing sound. Shwuk, step, shwuk, step. Behind you come the women and children. They are the binders. They grab the cut wheat, gather it into an armful, and with a quick, practiced twist of a straw rope, they tie it into a sheaf. They stand the sheaves up in groups of 6 or 8 to dry. These are stooks. The field transforms. What was a golden ocean becomes a checkerboard of stubble and little golden tents. The work is brutal. Your shoulders burn. Your hands blister, then calloused over. The dust gets everywhere, in your eyes, in your nose, down your tunic. You are covered in a layer of golden grit. But there is a flow state here. You aren't thinking about your problems. You aren't worrying about the future. You are entirely focused on the arc of the blade. It's mindfulness in motion.
At midday, the harvest lord, the guy in charge of the reapers, calls a halt. You drop to the ground in the shade of a stook. Someone passes a jug of ale. It's warm, but it tastes like nectar. You eat bread and cheese. You wipe the sweat from your eyes. You look at the sky. Clouds are gathering in the west. Dark, bruised-looking clouds. The tension spikes. You can feel it in the group. Rain, someone whispers. If it rains now, the cut wheat will get soggy. It might sprout or mold. The break is over, instantly. You pick up the scythes. The pace quickens.
The rhythm gets faster. Swish, step, swish, step. You are racing the storm. You are fighting the sky. The wind picks up. The temperature drops. The first few fat drops of rain hit your face. But you don't stop. You have 10 rows left, 5 rows, 2. And then the last stalk falls. A cheer goes up. It's ragged, tired, but triumphant. "Harvest home," someone shouts. You made it. The grain is cut. The sheaves are being tossed into the carts and covered just as the heavens open. You run for the barn, soaking wet, laughing. The adrenaline crash is hitting you now. Inside the barn, it is dry. It smells of intense, concentrated grain, the smell of wealth, the smell of survival. The lord of the manor knows he owes you. By tradition, when the harvest is in, he has to throw a party, the harvest home supper, and he can't cheap out. Tables are set up in the barn. There is meat, fresh roast beef, maybe a goose. There is white bread. There is the good ale, the strong stuff. You sit with your neighbors. You are exhausted. Your muscles feel like jelly, but you are happy. The fear that has lived in the back of your mind all summer, the fear of hunger, is gone. The barn is full. The winter can come. Let it snow. You are ready. You look around the table. The candlelight flickers on tired, smiling faces. You see John. You see Agnes. You see the miller, who is actually being nice for once. This is the payoff. This is why you grind. For a moment, the strict hierarchy of the Middle Ages softens. You are all just people who beat the odds. You clinked your wooden mugs together. And as you stumble home that night under a massive orange harvest moon that hangs low and heavy in the sky, you feel a deep, primal satisfaction. You enter your quiet, dark cottage. You don't even bother to undress fully. You collapse on your straw mattress. And let me tell you, the sleep you get after the harvest, it is the best sleep of your life. It is a deep, dreamless coma of pure relief. If you are looking for that kind of deep rest right now, just imagine the sound of the scythe. Swish, step, swish, step. Let the rhythm cut away your modern worries. Let them fall like wheat. And while you drift off, make sure you are subscribed to Dreamless Timelines. We are gathering stories like sheaves of grain, storing them up for your long winter nights. Tap the like button if you love the smell of autumn. Now the fields are bare. The stubble is yellow and sharp. The birds are picking at the leftovers. The world is turning gray. The days are getting shorter. Winter is coming. But in the Middle Ages, winter wasn't just about cold. It was about magic. It was about monsters. And it was about the 12 days of Christmas. Next, we are going to lock the doors and sit by the Yule log. We are going to explore the medieval winter, a time of ghost stories, feasting, and the strange ancient traditions that eventually became our modern holidays. Pull the blanket up. It's about to get frosty. The harvest is over. The golden fields are gone. Now the world turns gray. The mud in the village road freezes into jagged, rock-hard ruts that can twist an ankle. The sky is a flat, featureless sheet of white. The wind doesn't just blow, it bites. It finds every hole in your tunic, every gap in your wattle and daub walls. Welcome to the Little Ice Age. You see, in the 14th century, the climate was shifting. Winters were brutal. The Thames River in London would freeze solid, so solid they could hold fairs and roast oxen on the ice. But you aren't in London. You are in your hut,
and you are preparing for the siege. November arrives. In the medieval calendar, this is called Blood Month. It sounds like a horror movie title, but it's actually just practical economics. You have a pig, maybe two. You've let them run wild in the forest all autumn, eating acorns and getting fat. But now the grass is dead. You can't afford to feed them through the winter. You barely have enough brain for your children. So the pig has to go. It is a solemn day. The slaughter isn't done with cruelty. It's done with gratitude. This animal is going to keep your family alive. Every single part of the pig is used. Nothing is wasted. Everything but the squeal, as they say. You drain the blood to make black pudding, blood sausage. You scour the bristles to make brushes. You clean the intestines to make casings for sausages. But the most important part is the preservation. You don't have a freezer. You have salt. Salt is expensive. It's white gold. You rub it into the hams. You pack the meat into barrels. The salt draws out the moisture, turning the meat into something durable. Then you hang the sides of bacon in the rafters, right above your central fire. The smoke curls up, curing the meat. For the next 4 months, your house smells like a smokehouse. It smells of hickory, oak, and bacon. It's an intense, savory smell that gets into your hair, your clothes, and your dreams. Once the work is done, the long hibernation begins. Modern people get depressed in winter. We call it seasonal affective disorder. We have to drive to work in the dark and drive home in the dark. But for you, winter is actually kind of chill, because you can't farm. The ground is frozen iron. There is literally no work to be done in the fields. So, you stop. For the peasant, winter was a time of extreme rest. You sleep longer. You eat the food you stored up. You stay inside. It's the ultimate staycation, forced by nature. You spend your days mending tools. You whittle a new handle for your axe. The women spin wool by the fire. You tell stories. This is where folklore is born. When you are stuck in a one-room hut with your family for 3 months, you need entertainment. You tell stories about the giants that built the old stone ruins. You tell stories about the knights of King Arthur. You tell ghost stories. And as the days get shorter and shorter, a primal fear sets in. What if the sun doesn't come back? The winter solstice approaches, the shortest day of the year. The darkness seems to be winning. To fight the dark, you need fire. You need the Yule log. This isn't just a cute log you buy at the supermarket that burns for an hour. This is a monster. You and your neighbors go into the woods and drag back a massive tree trunk, oak or ash. It's huge. On Christmas Eve, you drag it into the house. It's too big to fit in the fireplace, so you stick one end in the fire, and the rest of the log sticks out into the room. You light it with a piece of carbon saved from last year's log. It's a continuous chain of fire, year after year. The tradition says the Yule log must burn for all 12 days of Christmas. It must not go out. If it goes out, bad luck will hit the house. So someone is always watching it, nudging it, feeding it. The log is the center of your universe. It gives off a massive amount of heat. You gather around it, drinking hot spiced ale, toasting your frozen toes.
And then, Christmas. Forget the commercial stress of modern Christmas. No shopping malls, no credit card debt. For you, Christmas is pure relief. The church forbids work.
For 12 whole days, from Christmas Day to Epiphany, January 6th, you are legally required to party. The lord of the manor opens his doors. You, the peasant, are invited into the great hall. This is the one time of year the social order is flipped upside down. They appoint a lord of misrule, usually a peasant who is the funniest or rowdiest guy in the village. He becomes the king for the feast. He gives orders, and the real lord has to obey. It's chaotic. It's hilarious. It's a safety valve for society. You eat things you never usually see. Mince pies, which were actually made with meat back then, plus fruit and spices. Goose, and the boar's head, brought out on a platter with an apple in its mouth. You drink wassail, which means be in good health, and your neighbor shouts, "Drink hail," back. For 12 days, the cold doesn't matter. The darkness doesn't matter. You are full, you are warm, you are surrounded by your community. This is how you survived the mental toll of the Middle Ages. You broke up the endless grind with moments of extreme joy. But eventually, the log burns down to ash. The 12th night passes. The hangover sets in. Monday comes. Plow Monday. The holiday is over. You have to drag the plow back out to the frozen fields. The cycle begins again. But you? You are older now. We have followed you through the spring morning, the summer sweat, the autumn harvest, and the winter feast. We have seen you survive the plague and the famine. You are tired. Your joints ache when it rains. Your hands are gnarled like old tree roots. You have lived a life that would break a modern man in a week. And now, you are looking toward the end. What happens to an old peasant? Do they retire? Is there a medieval 401k? Actually, yes. It's called a retirement contract. And as we move to the final chapter of our story, we are going to see how you prepare to pass the torch. We are going to see how you ensure that your legacy, your land, your blood, continues after you are gone. So put another log on the fire. Pull the blanket tighter. The winter is passing. The final spring is coming. If this cozy winter tale made you feel warm inside, give the like button a little tap. Think of it as tossing a twig into the Yule fire. And verify that subscription to Dreamless Timelines so you don't get left out in the cold. Now, rest. Listen to the wind howling outside the door. It cannot hurt you. You are safe.
The wheel turns. The spring rains have come and gone 70 times. The harvests have been gathered 70 times. The Yule logs have burned down to ash 70 times. You are sitting on a wooden bench outside your cottage. The sun is setting, painting the sky in bruised purples and golds. It's warm on your face. You try to stand up, but your knees protest. They click and grind. Your back, which carried the weight of the world, is bent now. Your hands, resting on your lap, are maps of your life. Every scar is a memory. That white line on your thumb, the slip of a knife during the harvest of 1352. That stiffness in your shoulder, carrying timber to build this very house. You are old. In the medieval world, if you survived childhood, and if you survived the plague, you could actually live a long time. There is a myth that everyone died at 30. Not true. You're in your 60s, maybe 70s. You are an elder. You are the village library. You know who is related to whom. You know which patch of soil grows the best barley. You know the stories. But you can't plow anymore. You can't swing the scythe. The grind has finally worn you down. So what happens now? Do you starve? Do you become a burden? No. You pull one last boss move. You sign the contract. It's called a maintenance agreement. You call your eldest son. He's a grown man now, strong, with his own kids running around. You sit him down at the table. You make a deal. It's strictly business. I will give you the land, you say. I will give you the house, the ox, the tools, all of it, today. Your son's eyes light up. This is his inheritance coming early. But, you add, raising a finger, there are conditions. You go to the manor court and you write it down. The son must provide the father with a warm room at the end of the cottage. The son must provide 1 loaf of white bread and 1 gallon of ale every day. The son must provide wood for the fire and a new wool tunic every year. It's a pension plan. You are cashing out your equity. You retire, literally. You move into the back room. You become the dowager of the hut. And honestly, it's a sweet gig. You spend your day sitting in the sun. You watch your grandchildren play in the dirt. You whittle toys for them. You tell them about the great pestilence. You tell them about the day you marched to London to talk to the king. They look at you with wide eyes. To them, you are a legend. You are history in the flesh. You watch the village change. New houses are going up. Fashion is changing. The kids are wearing tighter hose and shorter tunics. Ridiculous, you think. In my day, we wore proper wool. But you smile, because the village is still there. The fields are still green. The cycle continues. And then, one night, the change comes. It's not a tragedy, it's just time. You lie in your bed. The straw mattress feels softer than usual. The fire seems a little dimmer. The sounds of the house, the pot bubbling, the baby crying, the cow chewing, start to drift away like echoes in a canyon. You are not afraid. Why would you be? You have lived a full life. You have done your duty. And you have a deep, unshakable faith. You believe with every fiber of your being that this life was just the hard part. This was the test, and you passed. You believe that when you close your eyes, you won't just fade to black. You will wake up in a place where there is no mud, where the harvest never fails, where the Lord is kind and the taxes are 0. The priest comes. He speaks in soft Latin. It's a rhythmic sound, comforting. Ego te absolvo. Your family gathers around. You see your son. You see his strength. You see your daughter-in-law. You see the grandkids peeking from behind the curtain. You realize something profound. You are leaving, but you aren't really leaving. Your blood is in them. Your resilience is in them. You built this house so they could be warm. You plowed that field so they could eat. You survived the darkness so they could see the light. You close your eyes. The pain in your joints fades away. The cold leaves your bones. There is an immense lightness, like taking off heavy, muddy boots after a long, long walk. You let go of the plow handle. You let go of the worry. You let go. And here is the truth, the final secret of the timeline. That peasant, that stubborn, tough, tired survivor, that was you. I don't mean metaphorically. I mean literally. If you are alive today, listening to this voice, it is because they survived. You are the result of their struggle. Your DNA is a record of their resilience. The immune system that protects you today, it was forged in the Black Death. The grit you feel when you have to work a double shift, that comes from the harvest fields of 1350. The comfort you feel when you sit by a fire, that is an ancient memory of the Yule log. You are the end of their story. You are their victory. They walked through hell so you could walk on pavement. They slept on straw so you could sleep on foam. They endured the infinite grind so you could have a dreamless sleep. So, as you lie there tonight, in your warm bed, in your safe home, send a quiet thought back down the timeline. Whisper a thank you to the grandfather with the scythe, to the grandmother at the spinning wheel. They are watching, and they are proud. The work is done. The field is plowed. The harvest is in. The contract is signed. There is nothing left to do. The history books are closed. The candle is blown out. Drift away now, into the quiet, into the dark, into the peace. Good night, survivor. Good night.